again stated during the dramatization, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. Yesterday, we had a very intense, a very productive men's Bible study gathering after the ladies left. We started talking about David and how most men have a little bit of David in them. And it gave us a chance to not only, look at the scriptures, but it gave us an opportunity to talk about male nature and female nature. And I've been doing a lot of research in that, along with looking at the book of Job. And I'm not through with Job because all of this is tied in together. But all of us know the Passover story. And we've had it taught to us, we've had it preached at us. And, I was always fascinated when they kept saying, and God hardened Pharaoh's heart. And it got me to thinking, and I always wanted to be Pharaoh when we were doing the thing. Yes, I enjoy being the bad guy and get to say all kind of stuff that, because really it gives me an opportunity to have some fun with you all, because it allows me to play the part that some people think is my real persona. And God hardening Pharaoh's heart. I've always said that, and I was sharing with the guys yesterday. I said, the reality of it is, he's none of our friend. Now, I know we got songs that say, he's a friend of mine. And yes, he is, but I posed to the guys the fact that for the Most High to keep reminding us that he hardened Pharaoh's heart, Pharaoh may have been willing to relent, because when he asked, hey, well, if your God is so great, have him do something. And of course, when Moses' staff ate up the snakes, that was a demonstration that the Most High was more powerful than Pharaoh's magicians or sorcerers or whatever. And, after the plagues came, each time, perhaps, Pharaoh would have relented. Because, even in the program, even in the dramatization, Ari began to question, hey, man, why are you doing this? All of what you're so proud of has been ruined. And I'm saying, that some of us got some Pharaoh in us. And I want to pose the question, what is the Most High hardening your heart about? Some of us might say, well, nothing, because I just love the Lord, and I just study, and I just have such a high time in the Lord, And which brings us back to David. David started out, and I'll say, like I said to the guys, I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking anybody. The peoples whose names are written in the Holy Writ, we're learning about them. They don't know anything about us. We weren't even around. But I thought it was interesting that David had been made king. And David was living a king's life. And David knew where all of his success came from, which was the Most High. And like David, many of us have had a quite successful period of life. And sometimes in our high times, particularly when we do something and we're right on point, and it's, you got the scripture to back up what you're doing or teaching or saying or singing, and you really feel at one with the Most High. And somewhere along the line in our high time, a little arrogance seeps in. Some of us think, well, when I pray about a situation, God's gonna answer. Because some of us been taught that. And David, of course, at one time he danced so hard before the Lord, he literally danced out of his robe. And of course, some of his subjects saw it, and they was like, basically, he ought to quit. He ought to stop, But he really was into praising the Most High because of how he had been groomed and brought up, and life was good. Where am I going with this? And God hardened Pharaoh's heart. One of the brothers that was there last night, he said something that I thought was paramount, because we were discussing when David asked the Most High to try him, he said something that all of us say from time to time, particularly when we've hurt somebody. We'll say, if I offended you, I'm sorry. Well, the second part of that statement is true. You are sorry. But I don't mean you're sorry that you're remorseful for what you did. I mean you're sorry, like sad sorry. David said, try me, and if there be basically any sin in me, clean it up. And all the fellas were around the table, and we could all point at different times in our lives where we kind of said the same thing. If, or try me. Because, for a while you've been studying and things are happening, and it's all going according to the word and according to the way Pastor whoever been teaching. You don't miss a broadcast, And so we start thinking, hey, I've got this thing down. I've got this thing. That's why a lot of times, what, you got a problem? Hey, let me get it. God answers my prayers. And it's not long before you make that declaration. Or, sometimes we might be experiencing a real high time in the Lord, and we might make a vow, And I'm here to tell you, again, not that I'm on his council, when we make a vow or we ask him to do something, sometimes he takes us up on it. I've always said before, a lot of these leaders that, everything I have, belongs to you, Lord. And I just wonder sometimes if he would just come on the scene and say, well, okay, if all you got belongs to me, I want you to give it to the Jones family. I wonder how that person that so boldly stood up I wonder how they would really feel. Am I saying don't make, no, I'm not saying don't make a vow, but I'm saying be wise when you do. And God hardened Pharaoh's heart. The more I research and read and I was telling the guys, I really want to, and I'm not going to bore the church with it, but I really want to do more in-depth study about a lot of the pharaohs. Because not all of them were necessarily evil. And one of the brothers also brought up somebody like Nebuchadnezzar, who God himself called him a servant in the beginning. I know I said, I'm going to wrap it up. Nebuchadnezzar was also a ruler, a king. God called him my servant Nebuchadnezzar. And that's the same guy that eventually he had grown long nails, hair, he looked like an animal. Job. Think about the glowing things the Most High said about Job. And we're going to get to it because Job let his friends say what they had to say, and Job knocked every one of them out of the park. But the Most High got all of them, friends and Job, which is why I say sometimes he ain't none of our friends, because he gets everybody. See, he teaches lessons to everybody. We all don't get the same lesson, and he's the only one that can use one incident and get everybody with the one incident, because we all are affected based on our part or our facet of that incident. So somebody might say, well, I just love everybody. I've never done anything to anybody. I don't know why they mistreat me. Well, perhaps, because again, I'm not on his council, but I'm saying he's the one that have you in the position to be the one that they're picking on for a reason. Everything he does, it appears, is for a reason. It's not just, I'm just unfortunate, people just pick on me. Well, perhaps from your perspective, that's how it is. But from his perspective, maybe there's something he's working out of you. Maybe it could be possible that maybe you have a misunderstanding about what it is to be humble. Real humility, not the I'm a weak worm of the dust, westernized version of humility. And maybe some of the affronts that we face is because you're operating under the guise that this is happening to you because you're such a humble person. And maybe that has nothing to do with it at all. He gets the one that's offended. He gets the victim, the perpetrator, those that observe. Well, Lord, I didn't get in that. I was just standing by, watching. He got something for us too. Nobody escapes. It just appears that in the presentation, I think Pharaoh would have waved that white flag earlier, and then the Most High said something. Donnie said when he was explaining, he said, "Because I've raised you up for a time like this." In other words, you got a whipping coming, and I raised you up for that. You the Pharaoh that's gonna catch it. Now, I'm sure the one that was Pharaoh, he said, "But why me?" And the question is, why me is because he's God. That's why you. All of us have asked that when something happens that we don't like. Why me? I go to church. I'm tired. I'm a good girl. I'm a good guy. And I kept telling you, folks, that's not enough. That's not enough. And I'm not saying that like, I've been in the meeting. No, I'm learning like you are. And it's confusing sometimes because it's like he's turning up the heat and then he's loving you at the same time. And one of the brothers, James, he said, God loves you. He blesses you, and he punishes you. All of that's his love. And I said, that's good. But that aspect rarely has been taught. That aspect, most of us think, oh, he's a good God, and da-da-da-da, God's good all the time. And I said years ago, decades ago, he's good when he wants to be. And I'm not making I'm not being irreverent. I'm not being ugly toward the Most High. He does as he pleases. We are here for his pleasure. But we forget that because we all have a thing about how our lives should go. Most of us do. Now, some I just want to do the will of the Lord. Which that's nice. That's nice. But are you going to pay your bills? Are you going to be a person of your word, or do you just want to live this ethereal kind of life where you duck out on certain aspects of life, but when it comes to church stuff, you front and center? That's interesting. That's interesting. Folks, I'm going to close. And I still want y'all to enjoy some of this ice cream. First quarter of this year is gone. I hope the second quarter you will make some notations in those little notebooks. Again, I'm not, and what you write in it, that's between you and your maker. But make sure he's not hardening your heart about something that only you and he know what it's about. You want to make sure that, if it's all the same to you, can I not take this test? And then we got to remember, we're here for his pleasure. Now, I know he's given teachings and instructions, and a lot of us, we try to live by the teachings and instructions. We try to demonstrate them by the way we live our lives, the way we walk. And we should. But let's hold on a little tighter because it's going to get a little bumpier. Hold on anyway. And like I said, yeah, for myself, sometimes I feel like he smacked me upside the head and he gets a chuckle out of it. And then I said, well, Brad, even if you get mad, what you going to do? You can't beat him. Not that I would, but sometimes I just have to say, Father, this is bitter. This is too bitter. And I've told you, I've confessed to you, I'm a crybaby, particularly around him. Whatever the most difficult situation is in your life, and we've kind of dug in about it. If he's pulling at you, if he's tugging at your heart about something, we better off just saying, okay, this is going to be real unpleasant, but I done tried it my way. You know, folks, it's just best to say uncle. That's the long and short of it. It's best to say uncle. Because he's not going to break your arm, but on occasion, he might, put a little pressure on it. Put a little pressure on it. Not you, though, Alan. You need your arm to play. Thank y'all. And again, Max, I apologize.